Hello, Internet, and welcome to another Wednesday's serial. I wanted to take some time because I picked up some different books this week, and I feel like that's exciting enough to actually make a video with. I just wanted to go for it, so let's go for it. First up is Detective Comics Annual 1, because they've never done an annual before. This renumbering shit is getting insane. I think this is an amazing comic. Like, I've never really cared about Clayface, and this book gives us a full Clayface story. And beyond that, this just felt like a full comic. I know it's an annual, $5, we get some extra pages and whatnot, but they make them work. I felt like there was actual page turns in here. I felt like we got phases and movements, and like a full story was told. And I'd be so much happier buying comics for this amount. I say, yeah, 5. I mean, just boom, this was a comic and it was done, and we get so much more about a character we've seen so much of lately, and it gives me enough to want to go back. Like, there's enough character development here, and I think there's been a lot of talk about like what works, what's new, what's old, and I I think there's some gimmicks or some ideas that have gone on with comics, and I feel like the biggest thing, and I'm just seeing this a bit this week, is this idea of decompression that Bendis, spearheaded so many years ago, and I feel like that's the biggest thing that we need to return away from is this decompressed storytelling, and we need to get tighter stories because the norm has become so decompressed that there's no weight, there's no substance, and I feel like you can feel it in the story, you can feel it in the art, and you just feel like you get some comics that just, what even happened? And in here we get almost, a phase of life, and we get an origin story in the truest sense, but not one that we've seen a million times. And I know that this isn't the way the canon for Clayface has been, but I bet you this is going to be the accepted canon for Clayface going forward, because this is a strong story, and I don't feel like it betrays or goes against any major points that people are any fans of. Like, there's just a way Clayface has been accepted, but it was just kind of an excuse to get the character going. This builds in some meaning to his character, and it does it with a kind of thing that I'm normally not so huge on, family, but it does in such a natural way that it just fits the story, and I don't think there's any other way to make it resonate the way it resonated in this comic. Yeah, I mean, if you're a passing Batman fan, you pick up your issues here or there, check this one out, because I have a feeling this is going to be a standout issue that people will be coming back to as people, you know, think back on some of the bigger Batman villain stuff that isn't going to be the obvious, Joker Two-Face stuff. So, yeah. Let's talk damage, because, I don't know, I heard some things, I was curious. And here's a number one, 299. I was curious. New Age of Heroes, I was curious. I figured, let's give something new a shot. And it wasn't worth it. This isn't a story. This isn't an issue. This is a beat. This is a beat to introduce a new character. There's not enough of a hook. There's not enough of an idea. Because we start off with, okay, this is DC's Hulk, basically. Like, it's not the Hulk, but it's the Hulk. But there's definitely some military innovation, which is pretty hulky. And then they get, you were chosen to be damaged, not me. So, okay, there's some sort of earned title, some sort of thing going on there. Okay. And then we end what's supposed to be a cliffhanger with, oh, there's a real boy underneath the Hulk thing, the damage. And that's what I would have assumed. And that's it. that's it. That's what we got for Hook. We don't really have any characters, really. We don't have any motivations. We barely have a setting. We technically have a main character. He hasn't really said any or done much of anything except for jump around and cause things to explode, but we don't really have any context about that. So it's just kind of Tony S. Daniels showing stuff off, and that this guy's a problem because he's kind of a Hulk character. And that's it. His name's Ethan. We know that. I don't know. This was so thin. Um, I know I won't be picking any more up. So there we go. Now, this Hungry Ghosts was something else. We get this book of just short little horror stories. Like, this is a quick little anthology book, but it's tied together with the tale within a tale kind of thing, where you have these characters in a room telling stories. But you're getting just a little bit of interaction between them, and I'm wondering if that's going to go somewhere. And even if it doesn't, it's so just kind of charming that I love it on its face. The ghost stories in of themselves are reminiscent in my mind of like old EC horror stories, like just quick, done, churn of phrase, a little something there, a little ghastly, sometimes just kind of crude for the sake of being crude, and it's fun. Uh, it's a fun, dark, dirty book. This is 4 issues. I'm on board. This is something I'm not seeing a lot of. There's also a lot of clearly Asian influence here. All of the horror stories are supposed to relate to food in some way, so there's one that plays with that. Um, yeah, I, you know, I think I think this is probably the best new horror comic to come out in forever. I'm also really excited to see that Dark Horse is taking some chances and doing some stuff. I know that they've been put in a position where they kind of have to, but if we get good comics, that's cool, right? So, yeah, if you haven't, you're a fan of horror or whatever, check out Hungry Ghosts. It's more than your kind of standard horror fare because it's so punchy in a way that, it gets right to the good stuff, which I think is maybe the problem with horror comics sometimes, especially with the decompressed storytelling, is takes issues for anything to get anywhere. This is just tell something in a few pages and move on, and I needed some of that. So this is such a breath of fresh air right now. Look, Jessica Jones 16 is a powerful comic. This definitely is an issue in a series, but this is something that I can't. There's so much being talked about, and I can't really touch on all of it because it all builds to something. And no spoilers, right? So, knowing that this is kind of a coup de grace, I mean, this is Bendis's baby being put to pasture in a way, and I'm curious to see how that goes, but it's a powerful story, and I'm glad it's being told. At first, when the Purple Man came back, I thought, Netflix series, they feel like they kind of have to, I guess. But then they started getting into it, and there's something powerful here, and I'm digging on it. And I'm curious to see where it goes. And in a way, despite the potential of what they could do, it's relatively quiet. There's still mayhem going on. There's still blood in the streets, and they show it. They show it, but they don't live there. And it's just this kind of perfect balance to give you the weight of what's happening and prod on. If you're not reading Jessica Jones, I don't know. Yeah, I clearly believe it's one of Marvel's strongest titles. We'll see how it goes. I honestly kind of hope they let the book breathe before throwing someone else on. I think it would be a deft touch to let the book sit at least for a month. if you're going to put new creative staff on it, because it is so closely tied to the creators on it that if you want to do something new with it, just let it sit 1 month, let them get ahead, let them get it right, and let them be right for a handful of months. Because if you screw the pooch on a creator switch on a book like that, you might kill the character permanently. So, yeah, I really hope they just give it a beat to go before they inevitably revisit it, because I'm pretty sure it's one of Marvel's biggest properties right now via the Netflix show, and with all the Me Too movement going on right now, it feels like a very important character to be leaning on right now. And I think they should do it, but if you're not tactful with it, yeah, it just needs to be handled with a deft hand. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying do it right or not at all. I'm completely uninitiated, but this Milk Wars thing is nuts. This is, I think, the most fun I've ever seen someone just take a metatextual idea, just completely go for what comics are and just play with it. Um, yeah, I don't know what else really to say. I don't know many of these characters. I don't know how many of these characters actually are to know. This comic just jumps in and it plays with stuff, and it has these pages that, are just full pages, but there's so much to look at, so much to interact with, that it is a comic page. It's not just a static thing. This is something else. I'm gonna have to parse when I'm not part way gone because it's late at night. This is pretty cool. I don't know. I might be on board for this whole Milk Wars thing at least. This is a fun diversion. Alright, so Sleepless 2 is a talking heads issue. This is building momentum to somewhere, but I'm not feeling it yet, and I'm honestly catching myself skimming through this. This might be more interesting if we had more of a hook on the characters, but I mean, this is a comic. We need something visually there. And what kills me is we have Layla Del Duca on here. Like, she's good, but the script's gotta give her something to do. And it's not here. And this is high fantasy. They have the ability to work in discussing things of interest while setting up the situation, but it's trying to play it subtle, which I just think is dry. So, yeah, I hope this picks up soon, because I want some high fantasy in my comic diet, and part of the high fantasy thing is having a little fun with it. Okay, well, that's it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm going to be coming at you soon. I need to do another spider video now that there's enough meat on the bone. Last week there was only an